Ladies and gentlemen, this is El Cochino, Tom Lawler, and I'd like to welcome you to the podcast that puts the lotion on its own skin, LuchaWorld. Bitchin'.
Welcome everyone to LuchaWorld Podcast, episode number 105. Fredo Esparza here. Today we are going to recap or just give out some thoughts on the two big shows from this last weekend, which were Homenaje a dos Leyendas from CMLL on Friday, March 15th, and the following day on a Saturday, March 16th, AAA's Reyes. Both had some news on them. Well, I thought they were both good shows. Each had some interesting things going on in their main events. One wasn't as bad as the other one, although I think the one that got more of a reaction was probably I think it made everyone forget the other one because the other one was so bad. But we'll be talking about that. We'll also have part 2 of the Superboy interview. This time around he's actually going to be talking about his AAA match that was actually televised back in I think 1993 or 94, somewhere around that time period, where he teamed up with Capitan Oro against Luis Piccoli and of course Vandal Drummond. Yes, Vandal Drummond made AAA television. I think that's his one televised match in his entire pro wrestling career in the United States, or I think he made a few appearances in Japanese television, but not wrestling. He might have taken a bump. Also, Superboy will talk about some more local luchadors, how his dad got into wrestling. His dad, of course, being El Moro. He actually is one of the guys who actually started the local Los Angeles, Southern California lucha libre scene. He'll also be talking about drug use in wrestling. I think it's a combination of the horrible drugs that we hear about, but also some of the drugs that were back in the early 90s that maybe now we wouldn't really like. They're banned substances now basically in sports, but they weren't things that really people thought of as being these drugs that were, they weren't the same as the way people thought of cocaine or anything like that. Just, stuff to like get you going, get you wired. And also, he'll also tell us a story about a luchador whose other job was a coyote. Basically, he was somebody who would smuggle in people across the border. He has a really funny story about that. And so you'll have to tune in for that, part 2 of the Superboy interview. But before we get to that, I will talk about the CMLL show that was Homenaje a dos Leyendas. Just give you a quick update on what's been going on with CMLL, because they actually had a couple of other newsworthy events happen the week that followed. But we'll start with Dos Leyendas. Like I said, I thought it was a good show. Main event was awful, but I think everyone expected that. I think those of you that didn't expect it to be awful had a little bit more of a hope that it would end up being slightly better, but it turned out not to be that. It was just one of those matches where it needed a lot just to get to be a passable match, and it ended up just having a really horrible finish. Very unfortunate too with El Terrible, and it just was a major letdown. But I think for the most part, everyone kind of was expecting that. But the rest of the card was actually pretty good. I didn't think anything was bad on the undercard. Best match on the show, without a doubt, was the semi-main event. The opener had Hijo del Villano Tercero, Pólvora, and Vangelis beating Audaz, Esfinge, and Triton. I thought this was a good opener. Good way to open the show with Audaz and Hijo del Villano 3 actually finally getting to show something in a match with guys more of his size, with Audaz and Triton. Triton hit the Valiente special. It's kind of funny he does that, but it's like kind of gets lost at certain points. But he actually does it really well, that spot. There's a handful of guys that do it now. When Valiente was first doing it, it was basically just him. But the last couple of years, there's a couple of guys in AAA that do it as well. But I thought this was a good opener. Audaz was awesome. Pólvora, I feel bad for Pólvora just because he's stuck in no man's land now. He was, not that he wasn't already stuck in no man's land, but now he's like, whatever is after no man's land, he's even more stuck in that, just like before heading into no man's land. He's at that point now, because the Revolucionarios, Dragon Rojo Jr. is always hurt, and they never were able to find a third partner ever since Bobby Zavala got fired. But it's unfortunate for him. I actually think he's pretty good, especially against the smaller guys like Titan and Audaz. He looked good in this match. Hijo del Tercero, I think he's someone that CML should be like building up, nurturing, trying to find a way to like make him look good, and putting him against Cranio and those guys certain, or teaming up with Viano for it's something that works at a certain level, but he's got to work against better workers just to keep improving. Guys his size also, Audaz, Titan, Dragon Lee, guys like that. I think he's got to. I hope they do a little more with him. After that match, we had the Micros, Microman, Atomo, and El Gallito beating Chamuel, Mije, and Zacharias. I thought it was a good match. When Microman and Chamuel are in the match, it was awesome. When anybody else was in the match, it kind of like dropped down. Gallito was still able to carry his side of things, and Mije and Zacharias are more character based wrestlers. So you basically know they're not going to do a lot of stuff that Chamuel can do. Chamuel and Microman were busting out submission holds in this match. So I think Chamuel put Microman in La Bicicleta at one point, which you don't really expect that first of all from Chamuel to be able to like do that move, and then Microman just being able to like do it, because there's only so many things you could do with him. We still have not gotten Mije putting Microman in La Tapatilla. One of these days, Mije will pull it off. I have faith that he will do it. Atomo was awful. He tripped so many times. I felt bad for him, but honestly, there's only so much you could get out of him. I think that's been the biggest weakness in these micro matches, because they keep doing them 2 out of 3 falls. They could always just do a long one fall match, 10, 12 minutes. I think that would be fine, 10 or even 15 minutes, but just one fall, because these guys have to come up with a variety of finishes for 2 or 3 falls. Same thing happens with the women and the minis. They end up, and actually the guys too, where they're just kind of coming up with like. Usually, you just have to come up with. Really, you have to come up with anywhere between 3 to 6 finishes in a match if it goes 3 falls. So, there's not between these guys, the minis and the women, they struggle at that, and then the longer they're in there, you start noticing the crowd kind of starts to lose interest when it's not Microman and Chamuel in the ring. Especially Microman, if he's not in the ring, then they kind of get upset. But Microman was awesome, doing a couple of dives in the match. He's one of the better CML wrestlers. Chamuel is awesome. I think he's way better than we ever expected as far as anything coming out of this micros division. I hope CML kind of finds a way to find more of these guys, because they gotta get Atomo out of there, and they gotta start thinking about replacing Mihan and Zacharias, not have them exposed so much. But like I said, it was a good match. The third match was Diamante Azul, Soberano Jr. Titan beating Mephisto, Hefesto, and Templario. This was good. I think Diamante Azul was probably like the only weak link on this match. And he still, he wasn't that horrible. He just did his power moves, but he was hidden enough. I think he's kind of like given up on like keep working on his body, because he kind of looks like he's gotten a little chubbier. Templario was awesome against Titan and Sobrano Jr. Mephisto, Hefesto, they held their own. So I thought it was a good match. After that, we had a match between Rudos versus Rudos, as the Nueva Generación Dinamita, Sansón, Cuatrero, and Forastero beat Barbaro Carbonario, Gilbert, El Boricua, and the returning Nero Casas. And it was great to see Nero Casas back in action. He was good. He hasn't lost a step. He's still freaking awesome. And the best part of it was how he just came up with ways, like the finish of the match. He basically sold his knee, and just to get out of the match so the other guys could do a little more, their chance to shine, and to lose also. So they ended up losing, and I thought Dinamitas looked solid. Forastero versus Carbonario was really good. Forastero's kind of starting to I think he's starting to be one of the better workers in CMLL. I think he's better than Sansón at this point. I think just because Sansón is he's got more personality, he's got more charisma, so I think he can use that, and he'll be fine working higher on cards in CMLL. But Forastero, he's kind of developed into a really good worker. I really like all three. I thought this was Gilbert's best match in CMLL, but still, I don't think we're ever gonna see the best of Gilbert. We're not gonna see the Messias from the past or Mil Muertes from Lucha Underground. I think that's pretty much gone as far as seeing that in CMLL. The semi-main event was the Guerreros Laguneros, Ultimo Guerrero, Gran Guerrero, and Euphoria beating Caristico, Volador Jr., and Dragon Lee to retain the CMLL World Trios titles. I thought this was a really good match, a high-end Guerreros Laguneros match. The technicals were awesome. I think everybody figured they weren't going to be able to beat you never know with the Guerreros Laguneros, because they could always drop a belt and then just get it back at some other time. But I think the way they're positioned with the technicals already all having titles at that point, and I think right now, Ultimo Guerrero might be the only one that has a belt. I think Gran Guerrero might have one besides the CML World Trios titles. Honestly, in CML, these guys bring out so many titles. Dragon Lee's bringing in titles that aren't even from the promotion. So, who knows? But I thought this was an excellent match. Just a fun match from start to finish. And, you pretty much, if you've seen these guys go at it, you pretty much know it's going to be good. I think that's the only thing. I kind of wish there were different combinations that they could put against these guys, but I'm okay with that, because they were gonna have Phoenix and Penta in this, but we know how that all worked out. But I thought Caristico and Dragon Lee were suitable replacements, especially because they already know how to work with the Guerreros Laguneros. So I thought it was a really good match. The main event, Ángel de Oro and Niebla Roja beat Terrible and Bestia del Ring in a hair match. This match, basically the first couple of falls were very similar to what you get from these two tag teams, especially Bestia and Terrible. I think everybody was hoping Terrible was going to get the majority of the match and maybe pull out a miracle and make this a good match, but it didn't work out that way. The third fall, they came up with the idea of having Bestia del Ring pin Niebla Roja. He was the first one out. Fortunately, Ángel de Oro was eliminated Bestia right away. I guess I'm guessing they wanted to get at least a couple more, at least maybe 6-7 minutes more out of Ángel de Oro and Terrible as singles match. Unfortunately, that didn't happen because Ángel de Oro ended up, when he did a tope suicida at Terrible, dislocated his shoulder, and this is where the match just completely fell apart. They had first they had La Comandante grab Ángel de Oro while Terrible was rolling around in pain on the floor. So Bestia del Ring, instead of going towards in that direction, he saw that his partner was in pain, so he went over and was trying to relocate his shoulder, and unfortunately he wasn't able to. But Comandante kept holding on to Ángel de Oro. Bestia del Ring got up and attacked him, and then we saw Tirantes take a turn, try to fix Terrible's shoulder. Then the doctor came out and tried to help him out. Then you had Rambo come out to distract by tossing out La Comandante and restore order. It just became an absolute mess of a finish. Unfortunately, Terrible, his shoulder wasn't able to fix it, despite Tirantes trying nonstop to get it back in there. You could see that he was unable to do it, and then you kind of had Ángel de Oro staring at him, trying to figure out how he could pin him, because he couldn't do La Campana or La Mecedora or anything like that. So I think he ended up doing a Scorpion Deathlock for the win, and they won. They were happy with it. I think people keep asking me what they thought, how these guys would have reacted. Honestly, these guys, I think that that's what fans don't get. These guys do so much. They have so many matches and stuff that they're indifferent to it. Some guys are indifferent to it. Other guys kind of get very, sensitive about it. But I think for the most part, unless it's something like when in LA Park, when Cibernetico took that bump off him really badly, unless it looks really bad, and depending on the person, they're gonna just move on to the next thing, and that's kind of like what it came off like. They did cut their hair, and then they ended up getting their heads shaved in the back. But we did get to see Terrible cut all his long locks of hair at the end. It was a bad finish, bad main event to a pretty good show. And the good thing is, like, we didn't pay for it, honestly. I don't think anyone's gonna. I think that's also why a lot of people aren't going to get too worked up about it. We didn't pay for it as an iPay-per-view. For whatever reason, CMLL decided to make this a show that would be available for free. Only they didn't actually air it live. They actually aired it the following day. I think it was like in the afternoon. I can't remember, because they said they were going to post it late at night. But they had to edit out the women dancing. And I think they changed something in one of they edited something else out of the show. The other thing that happened on the show was right after the second or third match, they actually honored Blue Demon and Salvador Luteroth. Blue Demon's son was there. They had Tenoch Huerta, the actor who played Blue Demon in the Blue Demon TV series. He also played Rafael Caro Quintero in Narcos. For those who don't know or haven't watched Narcos, if you haven't watched Narcos and you're into like dramas, you should watch it. It's a good show. He was there. He did an interview, and like Julio Cesar Rivera made it seem like everybody watched Blue Demon, the TV series, and the way this crowd reacted, I think it basically the only people who watched that show were the Cubs fan and myself, because these people did not react to him at all. They actually booed it towards the end. Some people reported the booing. I don't think the audio was loud enough for us to hear. I think that might have been what they edited it out a bit. I did hear the whistling for Sofia Alonso when she was walking to the ring, and it wasn't whistling like negative whistling. It was more guys noticing her, how well she looked. But then once that happened, it just went a little bit quiet, and you could kind of hear the people kind of. You could hear the opposite, the other whistling, the whistling about they're bored and they want to move on. I thought it was a nice little ceremony that they did. They gave out the plaque, and they also had the Edecanes dressed as Blue Demon, and they also had a fake Blue Demon, which I think the Observer mentioned that it was for Astero dressed as Blue Demon, and then it was later on. What was it? I think somebody else mentioned something else. Oh, they mentioned that he was also fake Sombra, which I thought that was interesting. Bring back fake Sombra and fake Blue Demon and form a team. I think that would be awesome. It'd be better than watching Bestia of the Ring, honestly. But I thought it was a good show. Like I said, I hated the main event. We could pretend that never happened, but the rest of the card was good. Other news: that same night, Rush beat Bandito at Ring of Honor's 17th anniversary show in Las Vegas. I heard it was good. You're going to have them wrestle each other. One of them's going to have to win. The other one's going to lose. They decided to go with Rush winning. And I don't know. I mean, I think both these guys, they could have got a little more mileage out of them building up to their first singles encounter. But, it was fine. I haven't seen the match, unfortunately, since I don't really watch Ring of Honor. There's too much lucha for me to watch. I mean, and we'll get to it. Obviously, this show and Reyes, and I actually watched one of the matches from the Tuesday show, and then I watched some MDA matches. So, sorry, Ring of Honor, I could not watch it. Also announced for Ring of Honor, though, Caristico and Soberano Jr. will be heading to Ring of Honor for their April shows on the 13th and the 14th. This is Caristico's first appearance for Ring of Honor, and his first I think this is the first high profile non-lucha show for Caristico in the United States. He's wrestled on a lot of lucha shows, and I think he's wrestled a couple of I think Pro Wrestling Revolution has had him as well. I know he was here for UIPW a couple of years ago, and People were very upset because he didn't want to sign. He didn't want to sign autographs for his mask. But we got Volador Jr. to talk to us, so that was cool. But this should be interesting. I want to see I wonder what the reaction will be for Caristico, just because the last time a lot of these fans saw him was when he was seeing Cara. Soberano Jr., the last time a lot of these fans saw him, on a Ring of Honor show, he wrestled, I think, Punishment Martinez, and I heard that wasn't very good. So hopefully they give him better opponents this time. The LA Park has been in Puebla shows. He was on the Dos Leyendas show for Puebla this past Monday, where they honored Salvador Luterot and Estrella Blanca. In Guadalajara, they honored Americo Roca along with Salvador Luterot. But LA Park was in Puebla. He was there for that show, and then he was booked again for a return appearance. I think this is a good way for CML to use LA Park. I mean, if you want to draw more people to shows and stuff, I think the next stop will be Guadalajara, and then bring them back to their arena in Mexico. I'd be curious if they would use them for a Tuesday, or I think they've used them for a Sunday show, but maybe some of the other shows be kind of interesting. I know he's working for MLW as well, and he's getting US bookings and some bigger bookings. But I think that's the way you're going to use him if you're going to bring him for CMLL. Make it something a little different. Make him mean a little more by not having him on every single Friday show. Mr. Niebla made his way back to CMLL. Big return. The highlight, of course, this is Mr. Niebla, of course. So his first return match in CMLL, his pants slipped off. They fell down, they slipped. I think he said the belt buckle loosened or something, or the belt loosened, and his pants fell. Well, I think he said he was wrestling Caristico or Mystico. I don't remember. I didn't watch the match. I've had my fill of Mr. Niebla matches. He talked about how he dealt with depression after he got suspended by CMLL, and he had help from his friends, family, the indie promoters that brought him to shows, fans, and he said he was able to recover, and he did well. He didn't know if he was ever going to come back to CMLL, and he was very happy to be back. And of course, like he said, typical Mr. Niebla, he has one of those embarrassing moments that aren't so embarrassing because he is Mr. Niebla, and you kind of expect this sort of thing to happen. And that's the thing. Like, a lot of people often ask why he's constantly given second chances, third chances, fourth chances. I think this is probably his 10th chance with CMLL. And honestly, it's because he's a pretty nice guy. He's an easygoing guy. The time I talked to him, he was really nice to me. So I can't really knock him. And I've heard a lot of people say he's actually a pretty easygoing guy. The other thing that Mr. Niebla mentioned was that while he was away from CMLL, the other side, the promotion from the other side, which for all of you that don't know what AAA is called in CMLL world, it's the other promotion, the other side. Those are really the two terms that they use most often. And apparently he talked to AAA, and he said that nothing really came out of it, but he did talk to them. Would have been interesting if they would have brought him in. And a lot of people are thinking, why would you bring him in? He's an attraction. He's somebody that actually fans still really want to see. It's one of those weird things where I think some fans can't separate, a guy being a good worker to a guy being somebody who's actually just a guy who people, he's just a draw, that's what he is. He's people want to see him. Fans dress like him. Fans go to shows to see him. So, I think it's a risk worth taking for AAA if they were trying to get him in. I think there's a certain loyalty from the older guys in CMLL to CMLL, just because if you stay with CMLL, it's basically a job for life. And you see a lot of guys who have been there since, who've never left, and they've been there, like Ultimo Guerrero's been there since 1997, I think, or 98. So that's about 22 years. That's a long time. So That's why these guys aren't so quick to leave CMLL. And when you do, you hope if your career doesn't pan out or you do well and you want to end on a stay at home, live nearby, or have an easier schedule, then you hope you could come back. The other big match from CML this past week was on Tuesday. Dragon Lee won the CML World Welterweight title from Mephisto on the Tuesday show, and it was a good match. I didn't think it was great. I just thought it was good. I thought the Titan match that Mephisto had last year was far better than this one. I just thought the first 2 falls were really just skippable, and then like the third fall I thought was good, but I just didn't think it was as good as the Titan match. But he won. Something Titan didn't do, which, whatever. But, I thought, Dragon Lee now holds 2 titles in CMLL, and I kind of hope that he vacates the lightweight title, because I really think the lightweight title, I was going to do a write-up on the 10 things I would change in CMLL. And one of the things was I would have Dragon Lee vacate the title so he could just move up to welterweight, because that's really the glamour division in CMLL, being a welterweight. That's where you have Nero Casas, Mephisto, Volador Jr., Soberano Jr., Caristico. Some of these guys move up to middleweight or light heavyweight. They don't really keep track of this stuff, but that's really but when you're looking at the main guys, that's where it's Carvanario's in that division. And I thought Dragon Lee should move into that division and give the lightweight division more to smaller guys, Aldaz, or newer guys, Aldaz, Templario. Even though Templario at some point is going to be a welterweight or a middleweight. Villano 3, Hijo de Villano 3, Super Astro Jr. There's so many guys. Halcon Soriano Jr. Just to build them up and elevate them. And also make it a title that kind of isn't in the bottom of the card. Maybe like if you can move it up to the 4th match or the 5th match, I think that'd be fine. And some of those, maybe give those guys a couple of shots at being higher on the card. I think that would be kind of cool. But, Dragon Lee now has 2 titles. Like I said, I hope he does give up the lightweight title. Virus is in that division also. We haven't seen anything from Virus in a long time. But that's it for CMLL. Up next, part 2 of the Superboy interview. This was, of course, recorded separately. There's still a 3rd part that will be coming up, and the 3rd part is actually going to be is going to have one of my favorite stories. So stay tuned to this 2nd part and the 3rd part coming up in the following podcast. And after this Superboy's interview, I will run down AAA's Reyes and just some of the latest news, including Hijo del Fantasma quitting AAA and much more.
I just seen it recently, the match with you and Spicoli, me and Capitan.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. It is such a great match.
I was and thank you guys, because you guys carried me through that. And
but dude, your selling was awesome. And I'll be honest, I didn't really think much of that match at the time. You really don't, Mm-hmm. If, for me, it was just another match. Go out there and have fun. That was my motto. Go out there and have fun. And I remember, just having fun. And I was watching it, and we got good compliments from the announcers. We got a good acceptance from the people, and it was a good match.
I had so much fun doing that match, and I agree. I thought it was good too. It was
and I barely saw that match. I never seen that match before.
Really?
I found it on YouTube, or somebody posted it. And I seen it. I go, oh my god! It was a really good match.
That was,
and they were putting Spicoli over pretty much that time, because he was doing the gimmick for AAA before, right?
Yeah, because what the plan was, the plan at the time was to have him team with Chris Candido and have them be the Suicide Blondes, which sadly is an ironic name for both of them. In a sense,
Yeah.
But Spicoli, he was a natural worker.
Oh yes. I loved working with him. Mm-hmm. The way I think about it is, we were like the class of 1990 something,
Mm-hmm.
and not from the same from different places, You know, Spicoli coming from San Bernardino, him, Bobby Bradley. I didn't know who Bobby Bradley was, or Louis Spicoli, or none of these guys. And when we got to work, we just clicked. And it seemed like we've been, you know, together, you know, throughout this journey, you know, and we would meet everywhere I would go. You know, we would kind of meet, you know, here and there. And it was awesome. You know, it was just a shame. You know, he was such a just talented kid. I remember in 1997, when me and my father were promoting, he just left ECW. I get this phone call, and it's Louis Spicoli. And he goes, "Hey, what's up, brother? How you doing? I heard you're promoting." I go, "Yes. Well, what do you think if I, you know, come over?" "Oh, most definitely." So I said, "Yeah, whenever you want to come, just come on down and let me know. I'll book you." And I that was like maybe Monday. The following Monday, I seen him on Nitro.
Oh yeah, that early '98 is when it was.
Yeah,
early '98 because
was it early '98?
Yeah, because he was on Nitro and he did that really great performance.
Yes.
And then just a few days later, died from
because he's going to be on Thunder, I think.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's going to be on Thunder at that point.
And he was part of the NWO.
They were just starting to push him.
Yeah. And then when I heard about it, I was heartbroken, and I just couldn't believe it.
It was a shocker. Yeah. I guess you know, people who knew him saw it coming. Apparently, he which was ironic because when he got into the business, I don't even think he drank at the time. He didn't get high, but I think when he got injured for the first time, he started taking the somas, and it was downhill from there.
That'll do it.
Somas were not killing a lot of people back then.
Exactly. You know, and that's one of the things that I never got into. You know, it was strange because I would do a lot of TJ shows, and I consider myself to be in good physical shape. I had a great conditioning, and I would go down there, and towards the end of the matches, these guys were going like they just came in, and I remember them saying, "Oh, it exploded, échale, papa." I go, "What the fuck? It just exploded," you know? I didn't know. I was so naive. I'll be honest. I was so naive. I didn't know nothing of that sort. And then, and I just see them go boom, boom. And by this time, I was tired, you know. And I was fit back then. And until I told my dad, I go, "Hey, Dad, you know what? These guys, you know, they don't get tired. You know, it's the end of the match. I'm tired." And these guys are going at it like they just got in. And I heard one of them say, "Oh, échale, you know, it just exploded. Ya me explotó." Oh, it goes, "We're taking some kind of pills or something." And, you know, you take the pill, and when the pill makes an effect, you feel like a pop in the body.
Oh,
and
my
that just gives you energy, you know, it gives you energy.
Well, I remember a couple of years ago, I was hurt, and I was given Vicodin, and I would take them once I got to work, but you know, thinking, "Oh my God, I might fall asleep on the wheel if I take it." It did just the opposite.
Oh, wow.
It amped me up, and it was almost scary because I understand why people get addicted. Because one, it killed the pain.
Oh yeah,
beautifully killed the pain. But it also had me working my butt off.
Yeah.
You know, I know other people have different effects, but you know, and also amphetamines, I'm sure.
Yeah, you know, in the early '90s,
cocaine a lot
no,
too.
ephedra.
Yes, that was really popular. Yes,
they were selling those diet pills with ephedra.
Yeah.
I remember a friend of mine gave me a little. He goes, "I'll take one a day. You know, take it in the morning, drink a lot of water." Dude, that first pill I drank, dude, I cleaned the whole house. I even scraped the walls, dude. Scraped the walls.
Did you hear the theme song from Benny Hill playing in the background?
I'm not lying, dude. I was so hyped up, you know?
Yeah.
But again, you know, when that thing, the effect's gone, you just crash.
And that's a terrible feeling.
Oh, yeah. And I remember I was weighing at that time like maybe 250 at the time. Man, I went down to 180.
Really?
180. And I guess that's the lightest I've ever been in my life. I go, where are the pills now? Yeah, because that would give you a lot of energy. My friend told me, you're not going to be hungry, but still eat, eat.
Yeah.
Because your body needs the energy.
It's one of those deals where you obviously know Wild Man Jack Armstrong. He's one of those guys. He's always hung around the bodybuilding scene, but he's never done the drugs. He's never done the steroids. I remember asking him, like, you could have looked pretty ripped. Why didn't you ever do it? And he says, I just had this bad feeling that when something works that well, there's a cost.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a payback. And I think it's the same with any kind of...
any kind of substance.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's true because I never that was the only time I took, and I had a continued Fedra, and that was a key element for all of that stuff to give you that energy, not be hungry.
Yeah.
And that's when those pills were real popular.
A lot of those diet drinks too.
WWE used to sponsor them.
What was that called? Icon or Isopro or something?
No, it was
IcoPro.
IcoPro, yes.
IcoPro.
Yeah, and with the Fedra, they would once they found out it was a drug, they just banned it. But I only used it at one time. I didn't even finish the thing. I just I took it like for 2 or 3 weeks, and I lost a lot of weight.
I forgot how huge a Federer was back then.
Yeah.
And college students all the time.
Yeah.
Stay up for nights.
But I had your heart racing, man. Boom. I remember the first, and I gave some to my sister.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because I told you, my dad gave me these, I'll give you half. No. My sister took one, and she goes, oh, my heart's going to pop out. Oh, I can't take this.
Oh, my God. Panic attack time. Yeah, that's scary.
So she stopped taking it. And, it really affected. And I remember there were like all these little clinics that were doing. They were even showing on TV. You want to lose weight? Just and they. I lost 30 pounds at such time. And, they were going. They were getting those pills with the Fed.
Wow.
They were. And it was the good stuff, man. But I don't sell it anymore. And
they'll try to sell them, but they
once they make something illegal, they find something to replace.
Because they're briefly selling HGH also, like in medication and stuff.
Exactly, and there's other types of amphetamines that are legal out there now. I mean, those monster drinks will pop you up like.
You know what?
Crazy.
I want to say I think I've tasted the Monster. I've had one because they sponsor them at these places.
That sounds kind of kinky, saying you tasted the Monster.
Drink. Monster drink. It's just like we were saying, just brings back memories, and one thing leads to another. You jump from one thing to another. But talking about our veterans, man. And we were just talking about bringing them back, interviewing them. They hang out every Thursday at Denny's. And I don't know if you see them on Facebook.
I see the things on Facebook, and I keep meaning to. Yeah, we should go some morning.
If you guys want to do it next Thursday, we could do it.
That'd be fun. I'd be up for
you want to do that?
Yeah.
It's Coloso, Enrique Medina, Triton, KKK.
Both of them or just one?
Only one.
Which
one lives in
Arizona, no?
Yeah. Number one. Number two lives in Arizona.
The one without the KKK?
Yeah. With a big mustache.
Yeah.
And who else? Bengali goes there.
See, I'd like to hang with him some because
you have to interview Bengali.
Yeah, I met him at Cauliflower Alley about 10 years ago, and I had his daughter translate for me, just saying.
Is she the one that showed up at wrestling shows, or no?
No, I think it was the only time I had met her. Very nice.
You remember how what name he used to wrestle under in
White Terror, and also. Azteca.
No.
What?
No. He used to be White Terror, and then he changed his name. He almost looked like Espectro.
No way.
Green Shadow.
Oh.
Oh my gosh.
Remember Green Shadow?
I do. I did not know that.
Okay, it was him.
Because he wrestled in Northern California as El Azteca. Because I remember getting into a big argument with somebody. I said, no, Gil was El Azteca. They said, no, Bengali was. And we realized we were both right. Because Gil was Azteca.
Well, him and my dad were really good friends from Mexico. And they came here. We used to go to his house a lot when I was younger. And he was really cool. I guess they had a little foul out or something. I don't know with my dad.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal was, but yeah, I think they had a little fall out. I'm not too sure. I can't remember, but I think something like that happened. And he just stopped going to the gym, to Gil's.
Oh, wow. Huh.
And he had a barber shop.
I was gonna ask, does he still have the barber
Yeah, I think he does. I think he does because like even when Gil was still there, he showed up. He showed up in his car and he was walking kind of funny. I go, hey, what the hell happened? He goes, oh, I was at the shop and I saw my billboard. It needed some paint, so I got a ladder and I climbed up and I was painting and I slipped and I landed and I broke both ankles.
Oh.
And yeah, so he was kind of walking funny but we call him El Tieso. The stiff.
The stiff?
Yeah. That's what everybody used to call him. Pinche viejo tieso. Because I guess he hurt his back. So he had his car. He would sit down and his car had the seat with the rotate with him. Because he couldn't move like this. So he would move like that. So they call him the stiff.
He's another one I remember seeing since I was 10 years old. And I remember my dad just loved...
he used to come out in the Olympic, right?
The Olympic. He'd be on TV, and he was like Bondo Lopez.
Yeah.
He'd usually put over the other guys, but my dad just loved his nickname because you remember the ring announcer Jimmy Lennon?
Yeah, Jimmy Lennon.
He'd say, he is El Muchacho de Zacatecas, Bengali, and for some reason my dad thought that was the coolest nickname. And what I'll never forget is they'd pull a surprise every now and then. One night he teamed with another guy who was in Handsome Talent, and they actually went over. I don't remember who one of the guys, but the other guy was Raul Reyes, who was a name, you know. Bengali and the other guy went over clean, and Bengali took the mic and just cut the coolest promo. And I sat there, I was like 12 years old, thinking like, wow, why do they always have this guy losing, man? This guy's cool. He had such a great look to him.
Yeah. He was a good-looking dude.
He was a very handsome guy.
Actually, I have a picture, I think, in my phone. I'll look for it right now. It's my dad and him.
Oh, cool.
This is back in the early 80s.
Oh, wow.
And I remember my dad used to criticize them a lot because my dad was invited to go wrestle there. And my dad was pissed because he goes, all they want there is carpenters, carpinteros. That's what you call a guy that's going to do a job.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so my dad, he was pissed, He goes, all they want there is carpenters. I don't know how these fuckers could go in and and do that. They don't have any pride. Well, my dad was pissed anyways.
Yeah.
And I remember one time, I think Mil Máscaras wrestled that time. It was an American show at the Olympic Auditorium, and I remember it was so cool. It made me feel so special because we were in the upstairs, and my dad wanted to go to the bottom seats, and we were all following my dad, and then the security guard's there. He goes, oh, you can't go down there. And my dad goes, oh, I'm a wrestler. He puts out his license. Oh, okay. And then let's go down there.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's something I remember from the Olympic auditorium. It was so cool. Yeah, but my dad, I'm pretty sure he did wrestle at the Olympic.
Because I not certain, but I remember there was a guy who put some people over called Johnny Ray, and I remember the first time I met your brother Manuel, the first thing I said, oh, he looks just like that guy who used to wrestle as Johnny Ray, and I always wondered if that was your father.
My dad always wrestled as El Moro.
All the time?
Oh, yeah. You know what? I know because he told me that he wrestled there, but I don't know if he wrestled under that name or a different name. I really wouldn't know.
Because I remember same mustache, that smile, everything. Yeah. That might have been somebody else, but the first time I met your brother Manuel, I just thought, holy shit, that looks just like the guy.
Yeah, and it's just, I just remember it brings a lot of memories, and like I said, you gotta go. You have to make an interview with Bengali.
Definitely.
He's got a lot of history. He's got a lot of stories. Yeah.
In fact, somewhere I have that old photo. Remember years ago when I got those old photos of your dad and got the new negatives made? There was one of a young photo of your dad and Bengali when they're both really young. Now, did they grow up in the same area?
I think they did in Guadalajara. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, because because I'm telling you, because we used to go to his house a lot, and they were really good friends. They would visit each other a lot. I'm pretty sure they knew themselves from Mexico.
Now, when your family moved here, I'm trying to remember. You were actually born in Mexico, right?
Yes.
Now, when you first moved here, how did your dad get involved in the scene? Did he just know the people, know folks already? Did he run?
Yeah, they told me, "Come on, man, you're a wrestler." Nah, just kidding. No, you know what? Actually, it's even talking to my dad, because it's funny, but there was only one time towards the last years that we were hanging out, and we started drinking. And he just started telling me a little bit of his life, and it was so interesting. And after we had a long talk, he said, we should get together more often, and I'll keep, telling you about my life story a little bit more. And it was so cool. I learned a lot that day. And one of the things that I learned from him was that, when he first got here, he moved in with some relatives, and it's his cousin. He moved in his cousin's house, but he was such a dick. He go, just go to work, come back home, don't go out. Immigration's, immigration's gonna pick you up and they're gonna deport you again, and this and that and blah blah blah. And so he was always being oh, don't go out. Immigration's gonna get you. So my dad hardly went out, and I guess until he got his car and he started moving around, and immigration was tough back then, And there was a time when cops were asking for papers, and there was a big controversy because it's a cops, a law enforcement, they're not immigration, they can't ask for it, but they would still do and stuff like that, and you would get deported. And then my dad got scared, and then my mom was here, and in 1972. My oldest brother, my sister, and myself came to California, and we were living off of on Tweedy and Eastern, near there in the Southgate area. Southgate.
Okay. Yes.
No, it's not Southgate. It's
like the Bell Garden.
Bell Gardens.
Yes.
There you go, Bell Gardens. And where the bicycle club is at. Bicycle club.
Oh yeah. Oh, City of Commerce. Yeah.
Well, it's not City of Commerce. I think it is Bell Gardens.
Okay, yeah.
And so anyways, I want to say it was about 1970-something, 73, 74 maybe, when my dad, I guess he saw an ad or something that there was wrestling at the Arena Center. And that's when he started going to those shows. I remember Albo Rieta, Gori Chavez, Apolo Casillas, Jalisco Primero,
yes.
El Dandy, El Dandy, Jalisco Dos, Falcón de Oro, Bull Ramos.
Bull Ramos actually wrestled on some of
Yes.
these? Oh my gosh.
Yes, a lot of guys. Frank Tejeda, and later on, this is like 19. I was like 5 or 6 at the time, and this is at the Arena Center, down by Wheeler, like a block before you hit Arizona.
Yes.
There's an old theater there, and that's I'm guessing that's how my dad got to beat Gil and all these guys.
Got hooked up with all of
Yeah,
them.
and then
Yes.
started training at Gil's.
What's your first memory of Al Murrieta, one of our legends?
Oh, you don't want to know.
Yes, I do. Oh my.
I have two Al Murrieta. I'm telling you, I was like 5 or 6, and there was a theater, right? So there were some stairs that would go where they had the locker rooms. They had them like by the projector. The projector.
Yes.
And that room, that's where they used to go and change. So I remember going up there, and he was butt naked. And I was making fun of him, and they seated us, and they scared us off, and we ran down. And the other thing, he was notorious for making people bleed. But the way he used to do it, that was the awesome part. He would actually take out his teeth. He would take out his teeth.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he would poke him in the head, in the forehead. And
Jeez.
and this one time, the other guy gets a hold of his teeth and he throws it into the audience.
Oh my God.
He throws it into the audience, and he left without a teeth that day. But it was so funny. But
If I threw Al Murrieta's teeth into the audience, the first thing I would do after that is I would run
Yes.
fast because Al Murrieta could smoke your ass hot.
And you know what? He was a good-looking guy, and he would always come out to he had like a silver pants, and long, and then a little jacket, and he would wear a bandana. And I can't remember, but I think they used to call him La Pantera Rosa.
Oh, that's the Pink Panther?
Yes.
That's great.
I kind of remember that La Pantera Rosa, Pink Panther, because he would walk the way he would walk. But yeah, he would always, and then he would take off his pants, and people started whistling. But yeah, he wouldn't be really elegant, but he would always come like with a silver pants and a little jacket and a bandana. That's what I remember of Al Murrieta.
Because I remember first time I ever saw him obviously was Hadco Plaza, and he'd always be this badass rudo every time. And then one night he had I can't remember what they called the championship, but it was a title match with Apollo Casillas.
Okay.
And that was back when the title matches they'd always wrestled technically. And so it was fun getting to see Al Murrieta wrestle as a Technico. He was good too. I mean, he could.
He could wrestle. He could really wrestle. These guys were really wrestlers. You know, all these guys, at one point or another, they came from Mexico, and they started their school here, and they started training, and and they had a good follower of people training, and nowadays a lot of kids take it for granted. You go now to Santino's, you go to LWP, you go places to train. Before, I've heard stories about, oh my God, it took me a year to find this place. I would come here and nobody would tell you anything. There's a gym, there's a wrestling gym. No wrestling gym around here. So it was really tough just to even find Gil's.
It was real secretive.
Yeah, it was really, really, really secretive. And it was hard to get to. It was really hard to get to. And and these guys were jealous. These guys didn't accept just anybody. The right off of my head, I remember, like I said, El Michoacano.
I remember El Michoacano.
Yeah, Michoacano.
Yes.
He got banned from Gil's, dude.
Did he? What?
Yes.
What's the story with that?
Well, in the early 80s, he decides to be a promoter. He decides to be a promoter, and back then you couldn't promote or do anything or wrestle anywhere else without Gil's permission.
Oh.
And this guy did a show at a bar, no ring, no ring, just some ropes. And I remember there was this young kid. What was his name? I can't remember what his name was. Nickname was. He used to train a lot with me, and he was a good friend. And he wrestled. Yeah, it was a 1-on-1, and they got banned from guilds. Never seen him again.
Wow.
Never seen him again. Michoacano and this kid. He wasn't a wrestler, but he was training to be a wrestler.
Oh, trip out, because I remember seeing him every now and then.
And he was a good wrestler. He was one of those wrestlers that people cheered him on. El Continental, El Michoacano.
I remember Continental.
Yes.
He's a nice guy.
Yes, a very nice guy. Centella Roja, El Caribe, Fantomas.
I remember Fantomas.
He's still around. El Cosmos.
Cosmos, who loved to bleed.
Yes.
Yes.
El Cosmos and oh my God! I just forgot the name of this guy. I already said Caribe. Piloto Nuclear. There were actually 2 pilotos.
Oh, I never knew that.
Yeah, there were 2 Piloto Nuclear, number 1 and number 2.
Who was the other guy? Was he somebody else?
I can't remember who it was.
Somebody who was just in it briefly?
No. And then Alfil, number 1 and number 2.
And Alfil, was that...
Triton.
Triton, yes.
Yeah, him and his brother. They used to wrestle as Alfil, number 1 and 2. Gori Chavez, Almorrieta, Chacal Rivera.
Yes.
Pedro. He used to... I don't know if you remember when they did the gay gimmick. Chacal Rivera and Pedro. It was...
I don't remember that.
Yeah, they did a gay gimmick.
They called it. I never...
Yes. It was Pedro el Hermoso y Ramón el Bello.
Oh, how funny.
And they were good at it. They were really good. They were really popular. And I remember this was like right after Greco y Sergio el Hermoso.
Yes.
They went to LA and then right after that Gil got on the name. And it was Pedro el Hermoso y Ramón el Bello.
I love it.
It was so
That's
funny.
great.
It was a good gimmick. Who else? Oh, and then the Americans, Handsome Harry.
Oh my God.
Handsome Harry. Billy Anderson.
Billy Anderson, of course.
Bulldog Samson.
Bulldog Samson and his friend Rocky Lee Esther.
Rocky Lee Esther.
I always wondered what happened to Rocky. He was one of the nicest guys I ever met.
And then Cool Cat.
Oh God.
I used to love
him.
Cool Cat, man.
That guy was great.
He had the body. He had the body, and then he had the Hogan. That was the first guy I ever seen do that gimmick. Where he was being choked out, and then he started shaking. And he would start punching the guy. You ever remember that?
Well, see, what I remember, I never got to see him on the lucha scene, but he worked as Cool Cat Clark at the Olympic for a short time, and then he's under a hood. I think he was called like the Whip or something like that.
Okay, I think so.
I think that was what they called him. And then, and I think we talked about this before, just one night I went to Hadco and we're looking at the program and it says something, about a tribute to Cool Cat, and, neither my friend or I could read Spanish well, but my friend says, oh, I think I heard something happened and he got shot. Oh. And that's when they brought him out in the wheelchair. He was paralyzed.
Who brought him out?
Father.
Yes.
Yeah.
We had a picture where
that was so sad.
My dad is pushing him in the wheelchair.
Because the few times I saw him wrestle, I never got to see him wrestle lucha style, but he was.
Oh man, he
such
was
a natural athlete.
One of the things that used to make me want to watch this guy is that he was wrestling. He was like the first guy I ever seen to do a nice cartwheel. He would do a cartwheel and then the punch, and he was such a great wrestler.
Charismatic too. Very
charismatic. And if I told you this before, but it was so amazing. I wish I would have taped them. When they were taping the film, the Win shows, once they stopped. With the same.
They would show some of the Olympic shows.
I don't know if it were the Olympic.
Because I remember one of the stations. There were 2 times when local lucha promotions would air here in LA. Once was in 1981, the other was in 87. I don't know who the promoters were, but
it was the same announcer, Armando Quintero.
Yeah.
Yes. And what I remember is, they'd use guys in the main event, like, the guys like Cesar Valentino, the guys from Mexico, but also the local guys would be in the mix, so he might have been on one of those.
He was in one of them, yes. And I just remember watching him, oh my God, cool cat. And he was a cool cat, man. And I love his name. And, I love the gimmick with the afro. I was his natural hair. No, but he was such a great wrestler. And I loved because he had a great physique. He had those long legs. All he used to wear was just a trunk. But he had those long legs. He had that nice build.
Muscular. And charisma. I remember thinking when I saw him in LaBelle, I'm thinking, they're missing the boat on this guy. This guy is a natural. They didn't do anything.
Yeah, and I remember I used to love watching him when they would choke him. And he started shaking. He started shaking. And he would get up. And this is way before Hogan, dude.
Yeah.
And, and he started punching the shit out of the other guy. He would make his big comeback.
I really wish I got to see
Jesse Garcia. Jesse Garcia. Rocky Ramos. La Marrana Rocky Ramos.
Yes.
Who else?
Mongol.
It's the same one. Rocky Ramos later masked himself and as El Mongol.
He was the one who was shot in Tijuana.
Yes.
That was so sad. I remember seeing him just like a week before he passed away.
Yes. And he was so cool, man. He was so cool. Because I remember I used to play with his kids. And he had a regular build. He wasn't muscular or anything. So he started going to TJ and he started wrestling over there. And I remember I was like 17, 18 at the time. So I was at the weightlifting team in school. So I was getting pretty big. And what I see, he was huge, man. He had a big old back like that, big ass arms. And I went into the gym and he was bench pressing. He goes, hey, mi yoyito, ¿cómo está? He goes, oh, también te estás inyectando. Are you shooting yourself too? I go, no, man, I just lift weights. I don't know what you're talking about. It was so funny, man. And then I remember he goes, come on, let's go. I go, where are we going? Come on, I'm treating you breakfast. Let's go. And we went to La Playita, the little donut shop. It used to be a restaurant before, so we would go there and have breakfast. And we just started talking because we haven't seen each other in such a long time, and we just started talking and stuff. And he was so cool, man.
He's a nice guy. He was one of those few guys who I would see him in the LA area just as much as I'd see him in Tijuana.
Yeah.
He's back and forth all the time.
You know why, right?
No.
He was a coyote.
I never knew that. No way.
It was funny because
I never knew that.
It was so funny because I remember I didn't know at the time.
Yeah.
And I remember he came to, it was like, because we would get up early. By this time, my dad didn't have to shop at Gil's anymore, so we used to work right out of our house. And we're over here. I'm over here fixing the car and stuff. And you see this. I see this van just pulled up, parking in double. And then he comes down. Hey, Yoyito. Hey, I'm looking for your dad. Oh, what's the number? So he comes out and my dad said, oh, we'll park your van, let's go. He goes inside, they have a beer. So he goes inside, has breakfast, uses the bathroom. Like 2 hours later, and the sun is blazing. This is like midsummer, and the sun's blazing and he even stops and tells my dad this joke in the middle of the street, and he's like, ha 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 ha. And then my dad, he goes, is the van full? Because he heard a noise. He goes, son estos cabrones, pollos. He had a lot of people in the van. He goes, oh, you son of a bitch. Let these poor people use the bathroom. Get some water.
Yeah.
Let them toast. I don't care.
Oh, my God. Too bad your dad wasn't a coyote. He would have been the nicest coyote in the world. Your dad was such a great person. He
got all the people to have a drink and stuff. Yeah, but he he was a character, man. And when he passed away, before passing away, he went to Gil's. And he goes, "Hey, Gil, you know what? Can you take care of the suitcase for me?" He said, "Yeah, I'll just leave it there, just leave it there, and, I'll come and pick it up later." So he never picked it up. He passed away. A few years went by. And I think this was like late 90s, I think. And then Gil was he was cleaning out the garage, and he ran into the case. And I can't remember who it was. He goes, "Hey, what's that suitcase?" "Oh, it belonged to La Marrana, Paz Descanse." He goes, "What's in it?" "Well, I don't know." And they open it up, and it was full of weed.
No way!
It was a sack like that full of weed, dude.
Wow.
How was the quality?
It was good quality because he took off with it, and we never seen him back. I can't remember who it was. Oh, I'll take care of it.
Back once again with third part of the show. We're going to be talking about AAA, Reyes. I thought this was a good show as well. It usually, like, if you're telling me we're going to get I have to watch 2 shows, a CML and AAA show, and I see the lineups ahead of time. Usually we get the lineups, a week before the show, so we kind of know what's going to be on. And with CMLL this past year, it's kind of been rough at certain points. And if there's a AAA show, you could pretty much pinpoint what you're going to watch or not going to watch. That's why, like I always say, if you have an Amazon Prime account, subscribe to the Twitch AAA channel. So if you don't want to watch it live, you could watch it the following day or whenever you want, and you could just pick out the good matches. AAA is not only doing Spanish commentary, but they also have a channel where they do English commentary. So this show, I decided, normally I stay away from the English commentary because Vampiro is one of the commentators, and to me he's horrible. I usually don't listen to it, but I haven't listened to this version of what they're doing now. Usually, like in the past, the iPay-per-views and stuff like that, it gave you the option of going to English or Spanish. Well, this was more of going to a different channel, and I just wanted to see. And he also had a different. They put him together with Mas Lucha's Adrian. I think Adrian Mendoza or some. I think that's his last name. I know his first name is Adrian, but sorry if I got his last name wrong. But he's been doing Mas Lucha, and he started working for AAA as well. So I think he's more of a regular there now because he's also doing a Spanish show with Rudo Rivera on the AAA Twitch channel. But I wanted to hear this, and I also heard I basically switched back and forth. I think the first early half I heard the Spanish commentary, then the middle part I switched over to English commentary, then I closed it out with the Spanish commentary. So. Yeah, because I think the first match I did watch in Spanish commentary, and the Cody Rhodes segment, but then right after that I switched over to the English commentary. And let me just say that if you thought Vampiro was bad before, he's still just as bad now. He basically spent most of his time arguing with people commenting on the Twitch chat room, just constantly calling them out and like pointing stuff out. And when he wasn't doing that, he was basically putting himself over. Or he would talk about how he's friends with certain wrestlers. He kept saying how he was a good friend of Pagano and Drago. And he would spend the other time, when that one match where everybody got hurt, he was very concerned for everyone. And then he started talking about his own injuries and how he had to deal with that stuff. And it's kind of like he just kept going on and on. But the chat room comments were where he was completely off the wall. At one point, you hear Adrian telling him to just calm down and get back into the commentary, come back. And he just couldn't get him to, he couldn't rein him back in, unfortunately. So I think if you like that sort of thing, like there's a certain aspect of it that you find amusing. I kind of get that, but it's still bad commentary, especially when it's supposed to attract fans. I mean, really, you could be bad, but it's got to be in a certain way where it's at least people think you're trying. Whereas Vampiro doesn't even know shit. I mean, it was just bad. And he's one of the guys that should know what's going on because he's one of the people behind the scenes, and he doesn't know what's going on. So it's maybe they just decide not to tell him, just keep it a secret. When he was booking, he probably kept everything. He just booked stuff and couldn't remember anything that was going on. So who knows? But Rey de Reyes was I thought it was good. I think the difference between AAA and CML shows is that CML shows, you get that constant just, if there's good matches, you're going to get them consecutively. And then you'll get that really bad match at the end, or the opening match is bad and you could skip that. The opener, like if you go to a regular Friday show, and let's say they have the opening match, and then they have a women's match, a trios match primarily, and then like you have the next 3 matches and the main event, you pretty much know that you're going to skip the opener and the women's match, and then maybe like the third match, depending on who's in it, you might skip it as well. And it's a little easier to like figure out that you're just going to watch the middle part and that's it. That's what's going to be good, or the finish, the end of it. With AAA, they give you a roller coaster ride of one match will be good, then one match will be bad, then 2 matches will be good, then you'll get 2 matches that are bad, and then they'll get like a good match, then the main event ends up being really falling flat. But this show I thought was kind of that way, but I would say overall, I enjoyed it though, because I don't think there was as much filler for some reason. I also think that also helped. Triple Mania, they do a lot of filler, and they have like those the matches that are the air before the Triple Mania show, so there's a little bit more to it. And I think even though it might be good, and I thought last year's show was good, I don't know how it won, how it placed so highly as one of the worst shows of 2018, because I thought it was good. I think it's just the length of the show, and that if you're gonna like have people sit through 5 to 6 hours of a wrestling show, it's gonna be very difficult. But the good thing is like now with Twitch, you could pretty much, if you subscribe, you could just watch it later. And they also have they also split it up for their TV show, so it's not that bad. The opener was Big Mami and Niño Hamburguesa beating Lady Maravilla and Villano 3 Jr. to retain the AAA Mixed Tag Team titles. I liked this match. I didn't think it was as good as some of the other openers. And I also thought Lady Maravilla was a bit of a drop-off to La Hiedra as Villano 3 Jr.'s partner. It's not because I'm biased towards La Hiedra. That's partially it, but it's not totally the full reason, because I actually do like Lady Maravilla. I just thought this was more of a storyline deal with they're doing a storyline between Lady Maravilla and Niño Hamburguesa, where she's flirting with him and trying to like she's trying to use him to like do things for her, and he's falling for it. Can't really blame him. I like I think Microman Fever said, well, Lady Maravilla is dating Ciclope in real life, the guy from DTU, so maybe Niño Hamburguesa has a shot. It's possible. You never know. You never know until you try, and maybe we got to root for Niño Hamburguesa. You never know. He could win her over. But basically, that match was Lady Maravilla telling Big Mami she was jealous, and Niño Hamburguesa trying not to let her hurt Lady Maravilla. They did a few good. It was actually a pretty good match. Not like I said, not as great as some of the past openers in AAA, but Niño Hamburguesa and Big Mami are fan favorites. I think the crowd that tends AAA tends to like them more than like us watching it, because there's only so much you could watch, and I think we tend to burn out a little bit quicker on this stuff. But I thought it was a good match, and the highlight was when Lady Maravilla, after the match was over, Niño Hamburguesa ends up carrying out Lady Maravilla and refusing to celebrate with Big Mami. So there's tensions within this tag team. One of the most, I'm surprised Big Mami and Niño Hamburguesa did not make it into that top 10 list of most popular tag teams or tag team of the year or whatever, because they've been champions for a while, and they're not bad. People don't, if you haven't watched them wrestle and you're just thinking of 2 chubby wrestlers, a male and a female, you immediately think, oh, they must suck, but they're actually not that bad. They're fun, and they're way better than some tag teams that were probably more highly regarded by certain fans. Won't name any names or anything, but you know what I mean. After that, Cody Rhodes came out for an interview with Hugo Savinovich. He talked about AEW and AAA's partnership, and he even gave Hugo Savinovich a job as Spanish correspondent and I think announcer. Hugo was the big winner of this event. I will give you guys the reason why, because it will happen. It happened right after this. I believe it was in the women's match. It happened right after this. You will know why he was the big winner of Rey de Reyes. So Cody was talking about his plans when all of a sudden Conan came out. He actually teased that Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega could be guys that we see in Mexico for AAA. I don't know how possible that is, but you never know. It could happen down the road. Conan came out, confronted him. He came out with Tejano Jr., Rey Escorpion, and Taurus. This was like the combination of Los Mercenarios, the MDA, or MAD, MDA, MAD, Foreign Legion, whatever you want to call them. It's the combination. Conan confronted him, and this was like the funniest moment of the entire show. Conan tells Hugo Savinovich to translate to Cody what he's about to tell him. So he starts speaking in English to Cody. So then Hugo translated back to English. So it's basically just them speaking in English to Cody. And Cody looks at Hugo like, I know what he's saying, like giving him that look. And then, finally Hugo figured out that he had to translate it for the fans. And that's what he did. But they attacked Cody, and out came Psycho Clown and Taya. I think there were a couple of other AAA wrestlers that came out to save Cody. And Taya welcomed him to Mexico. I made the comment that this was basically the team. We want a job for in AEW, because that's kind of what it felt like. But it was fun. I think this is something that we have. I think they could have done something a little more with Cody, maybe built something up down the road. But he's still recovering from an injury, so he probably didn't want to commit this soon without knowing how soon he's going to be healthy and what his schedule is going to be like. Since I think AEW starts in May, and then I think they have a show after that. They've already scheduled. I think they have 2 shows scheduled for as far as I know. And so, we don't really know what's going to happen with him. But I thought this was an okay segment. I think there were a lot of people wondering why they didn't have some certain other people in this, like Hijo del Fantasma. But, we'll find out about that afterwards. After that happened, we had the women's match where Lady Shani beat La Hiedra, Keira, and Chick Tormenta in a 4-way match to retain the AAA Reina de Reinas title. This was weird because Hijo de Tirantes kept doing really fast counts throughout the match. So you had Vampiro. This was the match where I started listening to the English commentary. So Vampiro was pointing it out and talking about how he hated the referee. And then you had the chat room people kind of complaining about Hijo de Tirantes fast counts. And that's what happened to finish the match. He fast counted the pin for Lady Shani over La Hiedra. So La Hiedra got robbed. But I thought this was a good match. Keira and Chica Tormenta, all 4 looked good. I think La Hiedra was the weakest of the 4, but she tried. She gave Hugo Savinovich the other highlight of the night, making his night. Basically, when she was doing her entrance, she went over and flashed her boobs or cleavage or whatever to him, and I think that kept Hugo happy for the rest of the night. But I thought Chica Tormenta might have been the best one in the entire match. After that, you had Fabi Apache coming out, and she kind of confronted Hijo de Tirantes. Hijo de Tirantes then said he had 2 surprises for Fabi, and he said the first one is this, and he clotheslined her and attacked her. And the second one was Keira and Chica Tormenta attacking Fabi Apache. So and then Taya and Lady Shani came in and made the save for Fabi. So now we have Hijo de Tirantes aligned with Keira and Chica Tormenta. I'm guessing that's also going to include Lady Maravilla. But they had basically made a big deal about how Taya made the save for Fabi. I think Vampiro was making a bigger deal about her making the save for Fabi than he did for Lady Shani, because I thought the Lady Shani feud with Fabi was far more memorable because it just happened recently, whereas a Taya rivalry, happened a couple of years ago, and it really wasn't as big a rivalry as he made it out to be, because honestly I don't even remember most of it. But this was basic. And, honestly, I think it was even before Taya kind of became a better worker. I think the last 2-3 years she's gotten so much better in the ring, but at that point, her rivalry with Fabi was Fabi just kicking her butt. So I don't know what rivalry Vampiro was talking about. The third match was the Perros del Mar wrestling Poder del Norte. Poder del Norte ended up beating Daga, Joe Leader, and Taya because Daga turned on Joe Leader, and that helped Poder del Norte get the win. I thought this match was it was short. Honestly, it was short, and I didn't really think it was that good. A couple of people said it was good, but I didn't think it was that great. To me, it was just kind of like you could get more out of Poder del Norte against any other group of people. I didn't think Joe Leader was that interesting. This basically had Daga turning on Joe Leader. Then, like, for whatever reason, Fabi came out to help Taya. And while this was all going on in the ring, we just hear a loud drop in the entrance area, and you see like the camera crew catches what happened, but you can't really see it because there's a bunch of people like already there, like helping up Joe Leader. So I guess Joe Leader got thrown through a table or something in the entrance area. I didn't see it. This was actually a part where I tried to figure it out. I could not see it. But I thought I think maybe that's also what kind of hurt it. I didn't see it. So, but the match itself was something that I pretty much already forgot. The fourth match, this match was a bit of a wreck at the end. I think it probably would have gone fine if it would just continued without any issues. But Averno, Chessman, Superfly, the OGTs beat Drago, Pagano, and Puma King. Also, I think that trio was too random. Drago, Pagano, and Puma King, way too random. I think they probably, and they probably could have switched. Well, they really couldn't because they had, I'm trying to think. No, they really couldn't have switched because I think they could have had somebody different in that match, teaming up with Puma King and Drago besides Pagano. But basically, the highlight of this match was the OGTs showing up as their favorite superheroes. Superfly dressed up as old school Batman. Superfly dressed up as Volador Jr. Venom. Or Volador Jr. dressed as Venom. That's basically what it was. Chessman, nobody seemed to figure out what he was dressed as. He was his own character. He dressed up as a different version of Chessman. But I thought this match was kind of like getting somewhere, and then it just kind of like, I don't think it ever got to that point. And then it just had this horrible finish. We basically had, and I was listening to the English commentary, so this was really also bad. So Puma King does a sunset flip powerbomb, and he's supposed to send Superfly through a table. Only the tables, I think, looked like it was a foot further away. So instead of Superfly's body hitting the table, the only thing that hits is his head, and it makes the worst sound you could ever imagine. Right away, Vampiro thought the guy was seriously injured and started going crazy on commentary, calling for help. Adrian was also, I think Puma King looked a little petrified as well, but I don't think he really had time to react because he got a chair thrown at him. I think it was by Averno. And then right when that happened, like you barely see that, and you see Pagano and Chessman and on top, in one and the other side on a corner, and they go through a table. Only Chessman's arm goes through the table, and Pagano lands right on top of Chessman. So you see both of those guys looking like they're in pain, and then you see Superfly still unconscious, and you see the medics showing up to check on him, and then you see the medics checking on the other two, and then you have Superfly pinning, you have Averno pinning Drago, and then like as soon as he pins him, you get a scene of Puma King like walking to the side, and he just kind of slumps down. So you're just looking at this, you're like, my God, what the hell was that? The finish was just really like bad. Fortunately, no one got seriously hurt, and all the guys were okay. I think Superfly wrestled the following night, so it looked worse than it was. But that match it wasn't that good. I wasn't really expecting much just because you had Pagano in the match, and I'm not a big Pagano fan. I think they needed another high flyer type in that match. They could have had Pagano. Unfortunately, he's not a Perro del Mal. They could have Pagano teaming up with Joe Leader. And Daga could have still turned on Joe Leader. Because you knew Pagano would have gone through a table anyways. But, that was a bad match. I then switched it over to Spanish commentary because I had it with Vampiro. The fifth match was a cage match. Psycho Clown, Mamba, Maximo beat Jeff Jarrett, Killer Cross, and La Mascara. Psycho Clown ended up being the last guy escaping, leaving La Mascara in the cage for the loss. La Mascara came to the ring wearing a military vest, and it said mask on it, which was so hilarious. I don't know. It's just funny. Why he still goes with La Mascara name, I have no idea. That would be like Eddie Guerrero worked as La Mascara at one point, and if he would have continued as La Mascara, we would have been like, come on, dude. But yeah, this wasn't that good. Super Porky was. I keep saying Superfly. Super Porky was ringside, and Jeff Jarrett picked on him. The whole thing was that guys had to escape the cage to like save themselves, but people kept escaping before even and they would get back in the cage. So I always find these cage matches to be really stupid, and this one pretty much fit that as well. And I didn't think much of it. After that, Blue Demon Jr. showed up for a promo. He was upset that Dr. Wagner Jr. wasn't in Puebla. He claimed that they were booked for a match on that show, which never was actually true. They were never booked on that show. I think Dr. Wagner Jr. was wrestling he might have been in California at that point or somewhere else. I know he was working somewhere else. I can't remember exactly where, but he wasn't in Puebla, which cracked me up. But I can't remember where he was, but he definitely wasn't there. He was booked somewhere. But and Blue Demon Jr. was somewhere else earlier as well. But that wasn't true. He was very angry that Dr. Wagner Jr. wasn't there, and that cage. I think there's a lot of people who think that they're going to actually have to add more people to that Mask versus Terror match, just because people already know Blue Demon Jr. isn't going to drop the mask. So they actually asked him after this show what he thought of his about Blue Demon getting honored by CML, and he actually said he was okay with it. It's just the thought that they were honoring him was worth it. It doesn't matter that he wasn't there, so he was okay with it. Allegedly. After that, we did get the best match of the night, and I think the best match of the weekend. Aerostar Juan Rey de Reyes beating Laredo Kid, Hijo del Vikingo, Jack Evans, Sammy Guevara, Taurus, Eclipse Vengador Jr., Mystices Jr., and Golden Magic. Eclipse Jr. They basically started with him calling him Eclipse Vengador Jr., which is a character on some Azteca TV show. I believe that's what they said. That's where it's from. They started calling him Eclipse Vengador Jr. Then they switched it to Eclipse Jr. I think they're just going to end up shortening it. Everybody guessed that it was Lancelot. I actually thought it was Electrico at one point, but it did look more like Eclipse once I saw him. And he didn't have Electrico's build also. Electrico's a little bit buffer. Eclipse Vengador Jr. didn't really get to shine or do anything. He pretty much got eliminated right away. The best guys on this were really Aerostar, Hijo del Vikingo, Laredo Kid. I thought everybody looked good in this. Taurus was awesome as well. I thought Taurus might have been the guy who stole the match. They actually, before Eclipse Vengador Jr. was going to make his appearance, they actually played Superfly's Jumbotron, so they had his picture and then they were playing his music. And one of the, I think it might have been Jose Manuel, said, man, this is going to be amazing if he's able to show up for this match after what happened to him earlier. And he didn't make it. And fortunately, at that point, they were already talking about how he was okay. But that was a funny moment. The rules were basically like 2 guys start, then every I think minute or 2 minutes somebody would come in, and until everybody was in. I thought that I kind of prefer. I honestly think they kind of dropped the ball. I kind of like the way they were doing it before with the qualifying matches, just because that meant you were doing about 2 to 4 weeks build up to Rey de Reyes, and that would be the one match. Even though sometimes I find those really boring, because you know, when AAA doesn't have a lot of talent, they do come across really boring. But right now they have that type of talent that they could actually get 4 matches out of these guys. They have, 16 guys? They have 16 guys that they could pull off 4 of those matches. And I thought this was a really great match. I was surprised Aerostar won. I think I picked maybe like half the guys possibly winning, and Aerostar wasn't really like in the upper list of guys. I thought Laredo Kid was really going to be the one that won. Him or Hijo Vikingo ended up being Aerostar. I think that was cool. And he's one of those guys that actually like appreciates this sort of thing, because he's kind of like, I don't want to say he's a mark, but he's one of those wrestlers who actually kind of takes this stuff a little more seriously than others. So him being honored by the promotion is going to be a bigger deal for him than other people. And I think he deserves it. He's a really nice guy too. Like, I had a chance to talk to him. Wonderful guy. He's really cool. And he deserved it. And he had a great performance. I thought him being in there with Laredo Kid and Hijo Vikingo, I thought those 3 at the end was fantastic. Hijo Vikingo was awesome to start with. Mysticis Jr. Taurus, I think he probably would have been. I thought he was the one that looked the most impressive. I kind of hope they do more with him in AAA, just because I think he's super talented. I hope he gets more of an opportunity. They mentioned that this was 9 guys were going to be in the match, and then they kept switching it back and forth on the English commentary. They went from the 11 to 9, then finally they just went to 9. I think the reason they thought it was more than 9 was because they were going to debut Eclipse full of Vengador Jr. And then they didn't realize Australian Suicide wasn't going to be on the show. So I thought that was what kind of like was confusing everyone. Then we got to the main event. Phoenix and Pentagon Jr. beat Reyes, Scorpion, and Tejano Jr. to win the AAA World Tag Team titles. I thought this was a good but short match. And, honestly, I thought Reyes Scorpion looked a little bit off at certain points when he was catching, like at one point, I think he kind of missed Phoenix at one point. But, other than that, I thought it was a good short match. When it went so quickly, you kind of figured something was going to happen. And that's when Conan came out. And, earlier in the day, everybody figured out that the Young Bucks were in Mexico. So, it was pretty much not that big of a surprise. And then when the lights, they did the whole spot where they turn off the lights and turn them on, and then it's the Young Bucks. I said it on Lucha Talk. I thought, honestly, I think that I don't mind that lights on, lights off gimmick. But I think there's certain points where you should just have guys do run-ins and just attack guys and start, like, that should be like the start of it. Start it kind of hot. And I think that would have worked more here. Although, it wasn't what they were planning to do anyway. So then the lights turn back on with Conan, and who is it? It's the Young Bucks, and they super kick Conan. Later on, he celebrates with the Young Bucks, which is, it's a swerve, I guess. But and then everybody got worked up about this. I thought it was a good brief main event, mini second half of the main event, feature or whatever you want to call it. And I thought that was fine. I think a lot of people kind of took it a little more, made a bigger deal about it. First of all, the Young Bucks didn't get a reaction from that crowd. And, I think a lot of people, like, they wanted an explanation why they didn't get it. It could be anything. I mean, I think a lot of the fans were kind of tired. You're there for like 3 hours, and they were, I think after the Psycho Clown, the cage match, they were very loud during the cage match for Psycho Clown. So, there wasn't as much of a reaction during even the Rey de Reyes match. But also the crowd didn't really know the Young Bucks. This is more AAA crowds. The people that attend AAA shows tend to be more about AAA, and what they might know that isn't AAA is usually WWE or like older luchadors. Not even like the CMLL undercard guys. I'm talking about older, like Ultimo Guerrero. They would probably know Caristico, guys like that, Volador Jr. But they won't know like the main, like they probably wouldn't know like I'm trying to think. Maybe I don't think they would know like Goro Maya Jr. guys like that. But they would know who like Cody was, because they reacted to Cody because he's a WWE guy. The Young Bucks, they're more of an indie tag team, so even though they were on Impact, but that kind of tells you how big a reach Impact has. There's not this huge reach for Impact. I think when you hear like AAA fans saying they want to see Impact guys, it's usually like the guys who were in WWE. Like when they would do that, it was always like Kurt Angle, guys like that, Jeff Jarrett, people like that. It wasn't like like, oh, I want to see Homicide or guys like that, Christopher Daniels, or they want to see Teddy Jack, guys like that, AJ Styles, guys like that. But I thought it was all right. The match, I think what people like, the reaction was they took it so like negatively because it made AAA look bad. But you have to remember, this was more about AEW than it was about AAA, because this gets something. I don't know. Maybe that's just something that they're going to defend for the AEW show. The titles, maybe that's going to be the thing. The Lucha Brothers trying to go back for the titles. That's the possibility. You kind of have this whole. You have this whole thing where it's like you think it's going to be something else and it's not really that, but you kind of want it. I think people wanted it to be more for AAA, and honestly, I think it was more about AEW. I also kind of view it as this being the introduction of the Young Bucks to AAA fans. So now you kind of have the crowd that saw that's going to watch Reyes. Now they're going to know who the Young Bucks are. So maybe this becomes the feud going forward for AAA. It wasn't about, like, if they wanted the Young Bucks to be known before AAA's Reyes, they would have shown something on television. They didn't. So I think it's more likely that they want to use Reyes as the starting point for the fans to understand to know who the Young Bucks are, and the fact that they're feuding with the Lucha Brothers. Other than that, I didn't really, other than them not getting a reaction, what more do you expect? It's not like I said, it's not like it was, they're not there's certain guys that crowds are going to react. We've seen foreigners go to CMLL and not get a reaction, just as we've seen in AAA. So it's not just one promotion that happens. It takes a while for fans. I mean, I'm sure I forgot who some of the Ring of Honor guys that show up for CMLL. The first time they show up, people are like, man, who is this guy? Or who, they don't know who he is. Once he shows up and returns, they see what he's done, they start kind of reacting to him a little differently. And that's what I get. It's going to happen with that. So, like I said, overall, I thought it was a good show. I thought the main events were way better than the CML main event. It's more of a build up to something else. It's basically the build up to their feud, not just, and who knows, maybe they could get some dates for the Young Bucks in AAA. And it's funny because everybody used to say, oh, when are we going to get the Young Bucks in Mexico? How come we don't get those type of guys? They finally get them, and the first thing they do, they shit on it. So it's like, what do you want? Other AAA news, Dinastia won the AAA Minis title at the Viva Latino Festival on Saturday. The prestigious AAA Minis title that was previously held by Mini Psycho Clown, or maybe Mini Murder Clown, or maybe somebody else, and we don't know because it was very rarely defended. But Dinastia won it. I kind of have a feeling Dinastia is kind of like in the Aerostar group camp of guys who just kind of appreciate the stuff a little more, and that's what keeps them in the promotion. And it's not just AAA. There's a lot of CMLL guys like that too. There was some big news the following week with AAA. Hijo del Fantasma, through his social media account, posted a farewell to AAA. So he's gone from AAA. He quit. A lot of people were wondering where he was for Reyes. I mentioned that on my Twitter account, and Hijo del Fantasma ended up following me on Twitter. I'm sure I'm sure I'll say something that will have me unfollowed and blocked at some point. But unless he's not that sensitive. He used to be a little bit more sensitive. Now I think he's kind of toned down a little bit. Who knows? Maybe, I don't know. But there's been a lot of rumors about where he's going. Well, not so much where he's going, what's happening with AAA, because he filed that lawsuit against Lucha Underground to get out of his contract. That's kind of still going on. He said he was still in good terms with AAA. They didn't book him on that show. I have a feeling that he probably already knew I have a feeling he must have told AAA something or gave him a hint, and they kind of figured that they weren't going to book him anymore, and he's just playing it off. Kind of like what Garza Jr. is doing, where Garza Jr. is teasing all these places he's going, but everybody knows he's going to go to NXT, WWE. So I think that's kind of what Hijo del Fantasma is probably messing around with also. I don't see him going to CMLL. I think everybody always does that, but I think at this point, if you're a guy who could go to WWE or go to the United States, that's basically the next spot you're going to go to. You're not going to go, you're not going to do a lateral move. Go from, although I think he would be a bigger, I think he'd have a bigger spot in CML than he did in the past, but he's not going to do that. He's not going to go from AAA to CML. The plan is to go elsewhere, I would think. But you know, that's something to look to start looking at, where both him and Garza Jr. are heading. I think they're both going to end up in WWE. I have the feeling. Like everybody knew, like I think it was 2 years ago, WWE had an interest in Hijo del Fantasma, and he's one of the guys who actually speaks English. And you know, everybody complains about how these guys don't get an opportunity and how why would they go? And you know, it makes sense for certain guys. If you don't speak English well enough, WWE should not be your next step. It should be going elsewhere, and while you're working elsewhere, take the time to learn English. If you learn it well enough, then you go to WWE. Maybe you get more of an opportunity. Sometimes it doesn't even work out that way, because there's been guys who speak English that it doesn't matter. Sin Cara's been there and he speaks English, but you know, I think he's more of a guy who's kind of just content where he's at, and I don't think where he's at is actually higher profile than what he would get elsewhere. So, you know, I think Hijo Fantasma is somebody who could probably do well in WWE. Garza Jr. has the look. He's a good looking dude. I think his style of wrestling is something where it's like, it's not totally lucha. You know what I mean? Because I think even when he was in lucha, people were criticizing him for not being good as a luchador. So he might actually be a little bit easier to like work into the WWE style or whatever what they're trying to teach them. I think this is like the last thing we're going to talk about, and that is the MDA show. They actually streamed it live on YouTube through I think AYM Sports, and I saw somebody tweet it about it, but they said Mas Lucha instead of AYM Sports, so I couldn't find the link afterwards until Rob Viper posted it, and I was like, man, I wanted to watch it. I ended up watching the handheld versions of it that Estrellas del Ring filmed, and I thought the freelance versus Audaz match was awesome. I typed Aramis by mistake in my results. I fixed it later on, but freelance versus Audaz was awesome. I think, you know, I was watching this match. I wonder why CMLL doesn't do something like that, like once a year, like a World War III type of concept. And they do it with Mexico versus El Mundo for the Grand Prix. Why not do like a CMLL versus Independence? They have guys that they're allowed to work, like LA Park, Hijo de LA Park. I don't know what's going to happen with Phoenix and Penta, but they have Gilbert, the Clan. They've used those guys in the past. They used some of the older guys like Negro Navarro. But like, wouldn't it be cool to like have something where they could bring in like Aramis, Freelance, you know, Dragon Bane, Imposible, you know, the guys who might be able to get brought in from that aren't full-time in AAA. But I thought that was cool. That match was really good. Freelance, man, that dude, nobody talks about him as, he might be like the most underrated wrestler in the world, because nobody ever picks him for most underrated wrestler. Like, he's not even like somebody that like when if you were to pick best wrestlers in Mexico, he's easily one of the best wrestlers in Mexico, and nobody ever brings him up on the list for whatever reason. But he's really good. Angel de Oro beat Aramis in another good match. Aramis is freaking awesome, and I thought this was a good match for Angel de Oro after that bummer of a main event. You know, Aramis did a lot of stuff to, like, you know, he was way smaller than Angel de Oro, but I thought that match was really good. He worked really well with him. Aramis is a guy who really should be a regular in one of the promotions, but I think he's somebody that really should also try to start working on getting a visa to work outside of Mexico, and because he's really good. I think he's awesome. The other match, I watched two more matches. The other good match on that was Laredo Kid versus Imposible. I think that was the main event of that show. But Laredo Kid has been awesome. You know, this has been a really good, like, 12-month run for him since coming back to AAA and, you know, working indies. I think prior to that, I think the highlight of his career was like the AIW podcast. Would constantly mention the random, like they would randomly see Laredo Kid walking around the town to go to 7-Eleven or something. But he's been really good. I don't even know if he knows that's a story that everybody's more familiar with about him in the United States. Then there was the Sobrano Jr. versus Dragon Bane match, which I thought it was kind of good at one point, but then like the finish was really like lame, with them trying to break. They were doing a bunch of Canadian destroyers and reverse Frankensteiners, and then they just ended up just getting like tired, so they ended up losing, ending in a draw via count out, or not count out, but they couldn't get up, so it's like a double count. I thought that was lame. That was kind of like more like, we have no finish, let's just go with this, especially when you're like doing all these crazy things. Dragon Bane did I think he hit a Valiente special in this match also, so he's on the list of guys who does that. I kind of like both of them, but at the same time, they're not high on my list of guys that I would rank high on my list. You know what I mean? Like they're kind of in that middle group. Dragon Bane, I think he's good, but he's not. There's so many other. I like Aramis, Audaz, Templario, all those guys better than him. Same thing with Sobrano Jr. And I think Sobrano Jr. when he runs the ropes is cool, and there's like stuff I like that I think is cool that he does that are cool, but he's kind of tall and lanky, so some of the stuff he does, sometimes it doesn't look as good. Like especially that tornillo he does. I'm not a big fan of the tornillo that he does, because it doesn't look like he's going that high, but it's cool, But to me, like I think maybe it might be the camera work that gets the angle, and it doesn't really work well. But that match wasn't that great. But that show looks good. I'm sure like the other stuff was really good, but I only had time to watch those 4 matches. Laredo Kid Imposible was good. Freelance Audaz was good, and Angel de Oro and Aramis was good. Check those out. That's about it for this week. Like I said, I think we're going to have more on Hijo del Fantasma and Garza Jr. on the next podcast. I think by that point we'll have a better... we'll definitely have an idea where Garza Jr. will be. I would think we would know something a little more about Hijo del Fantasma. Especially because I think by now we should already know what's going on with Lucha Underground. I think it's done. Honestly, I think Lucha Underground is done. If they announce anything, the fact that everybody has already quit, and that would require them bringing in new people. And the first group of people they brought in were through with Conan involved. I think that's something that will have to, if they're going to continue, they're going to have to bring in Conan back again, just to help with talent. Because if it's not Conan that's helping with talent, they're basically just going to end up getting ex-WWE guys. Somebody I'm curious about with Lucha Underground, where's Marty the Moth? That guy was freaking awesome in Lucha Underground, and I don't see him anywhere. Like, he might be in some independent group that I don't know about, but I would think he would be doing more. I mean, I think he would be like an announcer for AEW or, Impact or stuff like that, because that guy was really good. I think he was one of the guys who really benefited from Lucha Underground. I think there's some guys who benefited from that. There's a lot of people who kind of talk about how that might have been a waste of time just because of how difficult the guys have had to deal with, like getting out of their contracts. But I think it helped get a lot of guys exposure. Without Lucha Underground, really the Lucha Brothers, what they have, it would have been a little bit more difficult for them to get, because I think people don't realize AAA was not really fully backing these guys, and I think that's something that's, that Lucha Underground kind of, the people in charge of that kind of got behind them and got them their first exposure. And there was other guys that got that opportunity too. So, but we'll I guess we'll find out about that at some point too. So that's about it for this week. Check luchaworld.com for more updates. Also check what else am I gonna check everything? Go to luchaworld.com, check that stuff out. Go to my other website, retrowrestling.com. Constantly posting reviews from old US wrestling, lucha, Japanese wrestling. Really enjoying Florida championship wrestling from Florida. That's probably my favorite stuff I'm watching. That and Memphis wrestling. Really fun. I post. I also include the video links to some of the stuff. Unfortunately, some of the stuff I guess because WWE owns the rights to almost to like Mid-South Wrestling and some of the other stuff, it gets taken down. But I try to post as much as I can. The World of Sports stuff is really good as well. So just check that stuff out on retrowrestling.com. Check out the Patreon page as well. I think the next thing is going to be the Blue Panther podcast for Lucha Classica. I should be doing that next week and posting that. So other than that, that's it. And we will talk to you guys again soon.